Sergio Perez seemingly set to retain his Red Bull seat today after reports of new sponsorships. We're here to go over that, and we're going to compare a season to another pay driver because that's exactly what he is, a pay driver now. Let's start with the article you see here from Motorsport Week. Sergio Perez set to retain Red Bull's F1 seat amid sponsors boost. So we had a couple sponsorship announcements today. The main one was KitKat, which is a Nestle product. And if you're familiar with Nestle, they sponsor Sergio Perez. So here's we all know about Sergio Perez sponsorship deals and that he's essentially only at Red Bull now because of Carlos Slim and all the money that he brings in terms of sponsorships. And I didn't know this, but we're going to read this here. The new sponsor's name is not mentioned, but the company is said to bring in quite a lot of money. Perez has sponsored partnerships with the likes of Claro, Telecel, Infinium, whatever the hell that is. All groups from billionaire and businessman Carlos Slim. So all just he owns a conglomerate, I guess, and these are all groups in all businesses in the conglomerate. They are already said to take care of Perez's entire salary, so they pay his multi-million-dollar salary plus transfer collectively around 30 million annually to Red Bull, plus all the sponsorships they bring in to F1 as a whole, which would really go to explain why Daniel Ricciardo did not get his seat after the Belgium Grand Prix this year, because that's what it seemed like was going to happen going into the summer break. And a week in or so, we hear that Perez is not going anywhere and he's putting all this stuff up and all these statements come out. And then we find out that it's actually FOM who essentially owns the marketing and all the media rights to F1. They denied the move because Perez brings in too much money. So if that's not a pay driver, I don't know what is. So the KitKat sponsorship, we don't know exactly how much it is, but KitKat is a Nestle company. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. KitKats are fucking delicious, so I'm okay with that part of it. But it's Nestle, and if we look here at Sergio Perez's hat here, this is his 2024 Kids Edition hat, and it literally has a Kit Kat logo on here. Not that I mean, they were already obviously a sponsor of Red Bull, but now they are a multi-million-dollar sponsor of F1 as a whole, and they're the chocolate bar of F1, which I don't know if that's necessarily a chocolate bar, but anyway, they're fucking delicious. Doesn't matter. Um, yeah, look at this dude. Literally in a Kit Kat ad. I don't know when this is from, but it doesn't really matter. It's not like it's from today. That looks kind of fake, but I mean, that is Nestle, Nescafe, same shit. So pretty much what I'm. Oh, you can't even see it here. Hold on, sorry. Look at this motherfucker. Look at this guy. He already in a Kit Kat ad. Don't know when it's from. Doesn't really matter. But in all these ads already, like clearly in with Nestle, and that is the main reason why F1 secured the sponsorship deal was because of him. And seemingly at the same time, Red Bull also put the green light on to start producing merch for Sergio Perez next year as well. So I think somewhere it says Christian Horner campaign has already been given by Red Bull team principal and CEO Christian Horner to start merchandising with them for next year. So they're already getting Perez merch ready for next year. They just signed another Perez sponsorship deal essentially. Supposedly another Carlos Slim sponsorship is coming to Red Bull to sweeten the pot, I guess. So I guess Red Bull is trading the money in the Constructors' Championship for the money in sponsorship deals. I guess the math makes sense for them because otherwise it really doesn't. If we just look at some of the sponsorship deals here too, the main sponsor of Alfa Romeo stake, obviously 33 million a year. Aston Martin, Aramco, their main sponsor, 30 million a year. The top sponsor of all F1 is Oracle Red Bull. It says for a year or 5 years, but they don't really know. But that's supposedly the top deal with Mercedes Petronas being next with 75 million a season. So Perez is only sticking around because of the sponsorship money. I want to look at his season compared to his counterpart in the pay driver world, Lance Stroll. So if we do the maths real quick, which I did happen to do the maths, Alonso has 2.58 times more points than Stroll, and Verstappen has 2.6 times more points than Perez. So the maths would tell us that Stroll, comparatively to Alonso, is slightly outperforming. And the other thing we have to look at, we got to look at the Destructors Championship as well, because not only is he costing them money in the Constructors Championship, but if you didn't look at the Destructors Championship, he's currently sitting pole position P1, brother. He's outperforming the entire pack in destroying the fucking car. So it's not too much of a lead over Alex Albon anymore, but Here's Max down here with under 1 million. You know what I mean? Both McLarens are doing really well, but Sergio Perez 4.8 million that he's losing there. So supposedly the KitKat sponsorship is said to be 30 million. I don't know that that's necessarily true based on those other sponsorship deals we saw here. I don't think that KitKat is paying more for an F1 sponsorship than Aramco is paying to be essentially the title sponsor of Aston Martin. So I think that's kind of this is kind of fake news. I don't think that it's $30 million. Um, but it's certainly millions of dollars, and it is also certainly a reinforcement for Sergio Perez because I think at this point, both FOM and Red Bull are saying you got to sweeten the pot if we're keeping this fucking absolute bum around anymore. I think that's what's happening here. So again, compared to Lance Stroll this season, again the previous seasons he did outperform Stroll obviously, but in terms of this season, not only has he cost them millions in the constructors championship, also the destructors championship, also the fact that now we're not going to have anybody take that spot, and Perez is just going to hog it up for another year, where some younger guy could be getting good experience in a better car that he's just wasting by being a fucking bum. Um, Aston Martin, on the other hand, is firmly in P5, nowhere close to Mercedes, 299 points ahead, with Alpine now 37 points behind them. Stroll slacking off doesn't really make a difference. So, in my opinion, at this point, as a pay driver, because that's clearly what he is at this point. After Spa, Red Bull clearly wanted to drop Perez. That was the talk everywhere, and it seemed like Ricardo was going to take his spot. We saw Ricardo and fucking Max taking off in a PJ or a helicopter or something together after the race. They both seem pretty happy, and then we hear about a week later that FOM has blocked the sacking of Sergio Perez essentially because of the sponsorship money. So that's what it's come down to. That's what the sports come down to. I mean, luckily it's not like every position on the grid. I mean, imagine if literally all 20 drivers were paid drivers, it would be unwatchable. Um, but now at this point, they didn't drop him for Perez, and they didn't drop Perez for Ricardo, knowing that Lawson was going to have to take Ricardo's spot at some point. So they made that entire mess. Now Ricardo's out, and he had plenty of sponsorship money too. And like I said, him being a pay driver puts him on the same level as Stroll this year, and he's been a worse pay driver than fucking Lance Stroll this season, while Max is fighting off the entire field, still ahead in the drivers' championship somehow after having the third best car for a majority of the season. So if Max is good enough to win a drivers' championship in the car, Perez could have done enough to at least keep them in P1 and the constructors, maybe P2. They're losing millions of dollars, and the only reason this bum is staying around is because of Carlos Slim and all of these fucking Mexican companies that are all coming to the rescue because otherwise they'd have nobody on the grid. Like, America doesn't have anybody on the grid. You don't see them shelling out a fucking $1 billion to get somebody because I'm sure they could if they really wanted to. You know what I mean? Like they tried. You know what I mean? But they didn't. I guess they didn't do as much as Mexico and all these other companies are doing for Sergio Perez. So I don't know. I just had to talk about that because we saw the KitKat sponsorship today, and it was very clearly a backing of Sergio Perez. And then we also hear right around the same time that Christian Horner has green lit Sergio Perez merchandise for next year. So bad looks all around. I hate it. It's going to be another shit season for Max. I don't know why he deals with that shit. I guess maybe he'll be out after the season, but I guess it'll depend on the car. I mean, if he has a good enough car to win the drivers championship again, I guess it wouldn't make sense. But it doesn't seem like that's the direction they're going in at this point. It seems like they're regressing, and the other teams are far progressing them in terms of the development of the cars. I guess we'll see next year, and 2026 is going to be a whole different ball game. But let me know what you think. Is this just like are you like sick of fucking Perez being a pay driver now too? Like I'm sick of it, dude. Guan Yu Zhou got the fuck out of here. Get him out. I'm sure he was only there for sponsorships and whatever, and being that market or whatever. Perez, same thing. Get the fuck out of here, bro. We can do without the Mexico GP, the only GP at fucking ridiculous elevations that's different than all these other ones. Like it's a decent race, but like we don't need them, bro. They got that good money down there though. Just like the UFC does the same thing to try to target the Mexican audience. The F1 and all these other major sports do the same thing, and they eat it up, man. They had like over 450,000 people at the Mexico GP, so it obviously works. I get it, but like stop the pandering, man. You know what I mean? Just fuck off. Like, let's have the best drivers on the fucking grid for once. Just for once. Anyway, like the video if you like the video, subscribe. I'll be back with more F1 content over this couple more week break. We got like, what, a week and a half more until the next race, so we'll be back. Peace.